It's What's New in 853, covering Domino, Notes, Traveler, the Designer client, and even the IBM XWorks server that just came out, all brought to you by Connectria, your leader in the IBM XWorks hosting. All right, there we go. Good morning, everyone. This is the What's New. We're going to do Notes, Domino, Traveler, the new XWorks server from IBM, everything for 853. Lots to cover, a lot of people still joining in, and I figured as much. We had a lot of people registering for the event up to the very last minute. So we're going to run through. We're going to do a real easy summary this time. First thing I want to talk about, though, of course, who sponsors it all today. There's really no sponsor at all. There's too much information. Everything's new. You can see the recording of this later on the Consult in Your Pocket site as usual. It'll be out there for you. We have a co-presenter today. We have Kathy Brown. I'll tell you about the changes we made at the last minute in a few minutes because we had other presenters that were in. Paul Mooney got pulled away to a client site as of last night. He sent me an email, and Marie Scott sent in all her info but pulled into meetings, and some of you read her blog and know about all the stuff going on there with the work at the university. So they sent in all their info. We have slides directly from them, and then Kathy's going to handle the development section because I don't do that. So as you guys know, everything else is under the Spike Studio stuff, so you can find all the podcasts, webcasts, everything's linked through there for you. Connectria, we're actually going to have an announcement coming out today around the whole launch of 853 and the IBM XWorks. Of course, we're going to be hosting a server under the IBM XWorks banner, so we'll be providing a service under that. I'll throw it in later on when we talk about the XWorks server itself, but easy enough to find. And this is a big push for us as well, just because of all the new changes they're making, not only in the client side for everyone and all of you in the server, but the XWorks server is a big deal. So hang on one second. And the launch itself, I just told you we'll be doing a bundle later on. So let's get to the agenda and let's get rolling through. We've got a lot to cover. Very simple, very few screenshots. There's just a lot of data out there. They pushed a lot of changes. Everyone should be aware of things that Ed Brill said when he was down at Australia, talking about the actual versioning numbers, the controls, what they're going to call things. There's not going to be, quote, Notes 9. There's going to be feature packs. The way this is going, I see this almost as a feature pack with just the sheer volume of changes they make every time a point release comes out. So you'd be happy to know that we're going to see even more of that coming up soon after this 853. When Ed talked about feature packs, he's talking about additional feature layers on top of what we already have. So let's walk through a whole bunch of the administration note stuff. We'll pass it to Kathy for the development, come back for a few slides on Traveler, and then talk about the XWorks server. So administration itself. One of the things they highlighted was the widget catalog, which is now an XPages application. So what they gave you is the ability to sort and have more view controls than you previously had. Why is this important? With the new feature pack persona they're putting on top of the client, you're going to be deploying more and more widgets. You're going to be deploying more and more plugins. They're really going down this path and making it an XPages-based app. It's going to give you a lot more web-based functionality. They've added more roles in there, and if you look at the names of the roles, the widget access, who can actually get in there, of course, but tag author, comment author, and rating author, you're moving into this whole idea that they feel that everything you do should be socially rated and ranked. So they're giving you the ability now, with roles inside the widget catalog, start rating and ranking widgets that your company is putting out there. I can see this as a positive, where you're saying these are great ones that you should have, but if you guys have gone back and watched my plugin and widget session, you'll know that a lot of this should be security controlled by the administrators and pushed to the users. So where rating fits in, I think it's going to be when you really start exploring the new feature pack capabilities and overlaying tons of public widgets. And I have some new things about the widgets later on. You'll also see they added 3 new agents inside of there for calculating ratings and download numbers. So the agent runs every few minutes. It'll actually go inside and say, oh, this one's been downloaded X amount of times. This one has new tags that get applied to it. Users will be able to apply those tags, and you'll be able to control all of that across the board. Side note, people are going to ask questions, as I can see coming in the side question area. If you do have questions as we go along, please put them in the question area. We'll be able to see them as they pop in and try to get to them and answer them as fast as we possibly can, or some of them may come up later on, like the first one in about Citrix. We talk about a little Citrix stuff in a few minutes. So that's part of the widget catalog. Pretty straightforward. They are also going to give you some customization settings for the plugin, what they've allowed you to do, and this is going to hook right into the next slide, is what this is going to do. If you're going to start pushing out more widgets, and yes, there was a logic to my flow, inside the environment 853, you're going to need to now start trusting more and more outside sites, as well as using things like SiteMinder and TAM. So they've added enhanced capabilities for authentication controls, as well as the ability to serve widgets in external web browsers, which I have on a slide later as a bullet point. But you're now expanding the Notes client interface and use. What you see in the demos, everything that's been around Vulkan and everything else called these feature packs, is an overlay on top of the Notes client that's using all web calls and Xpage and everything else in the background. You notice I said Xpage, because I'm now trying to say Xwork without saying an S on the end, so Xpages. Sorry. But they're giving you the ability to push out trusted sites that you can then authenticate with. So take a look is what the screenshot looks like. So now under the account section in your address book, you're going to see the ability to give an account name, of course, the type of security, but if you look at the highlighted part, you can enforce SSL, enforce trusted sites, you have the TAM ability built in. You're now giving people advanced features of authentication mechanisms, mainly with the widgets and plugins and other features that are coming out. So this is new at 853, so as you know, you're going to need an 853 template for the personal side of this, for this to work for them and to be able to see it and to see these new account settings. So keep that in mind. This is on a server side. You're going to need this to push down to the user side, and so they will need the updated client and templates, both, when you get into these. Now this was a hot topic, and the reason I put it in early is same time we'll ship as 851. Some of you, I think, cringed. I hope you did. A lot of people were expecting it to be 852. They got pushed out with it. You'll have to manually or do a push from your server to update them to 852. The previous version in there was 802. So what you're going to have to do is decide, do you want to let the users manually do an update, which I wouldn't recommend, or push this out because it is a side quote plugin inside the Notes client itself. You can do this. Why would you want to is the new features inherent inside of SameTime itself. If you have not upgraded your SameTime environment, you're not going to get a ton of benefit out of upgrading to 852. But if you're going to try to get into some of the new features that are available in 852 with the meeting services and meeting center, you want everyone to use the proxy interface. We'll talk about that a little bit with iNotes DWA in a few minutes. You're going to want them to go ahead and push out the upgrade. I'm presuming they just didn't have enough time for testing. Even though 852 was out for a while, they were getting closer and closer to the end before releasing 853. One thing this does go against, and I had someone to bring this up to me at OSLUG, is that if you remember back, for those who have been doing it for a while, IBM promised back at 651 that version numbers would continue to match. So you have 651 same time, you had 651 of Notes, you had 651 of Quick Place, or back then, you know, Ilwickham, the content management. This is kind of strayed a little bit into the 8.5 realm. We get version differences across the board where SameTime did go to 8.52. We had 8.52 Notes, but now we're getting to 8.53, and SameTime isn't there matching with the versions of the Notes client. So don't worry so much about that, except to know that if you want the advanced features and you're rolling out the new one, you're going to need to upgrade. So 8.51 is going to be out the door. So let's talk about a bunch of iNotes enhancements. This is a cool feature. A lot of people have asked about, what do I do about users and attachments? You now have the ability to whitelist specific attachments. So you can secure what they can and can't open directly versus what they have to download first. It's an extra step for the users. I want you to keep this in mind. If this feature is enabled on by default, what it's going to force the user to do is actually download an attachment before it's opened in the browser. So it's a security control. What you can do, though, is use that second setting on the screen, the attached CD whitelist, and list the file types they can open natively. It's comma delimited, so let's say JPEGs, GIF files, bitmaps, PDFs, whatever it is you want to do, docx. You can actually then comma delimit. You can say you can open these natively right away without downloading first. If you don't, the user will then have to download the attachment and then open the attachment. You can turn it off by setting it to 0, of course, but the default will be 1. So it's the iNotes web access security for the attached CD header. The default is on for this one, so you'll need to set it to 0 if you want to turn it off. Now we take these a step further in the iNotes enhancement. Subject, well, actually, look at the bottom bullet first. Sorry, I put them out of order, but the bottom one first. I like that one because it goes with the attachments. You can now block attachment downloads to mobile devices. Seen a few requests for this. No one's really implemented the idea, or they just kind of dabbled with it, meaning they wanted to talk about the ability to stop them from grabbing attachments to mobile devices. You can now block that. So you now have that setting. Also, you can block the ability if cache management isn't installed in Force, and hopefully all of you have cache management there. I really hope you do. I hope you're forcing it on your users. You can now block reading attachments if there's no cache management. Cache management simply allows you to make a setting to clean up the local system. So if they're using a kiosk or even just a PC at home or even their work PC, the cache management will say delete everything that was left behind except for maybe the controls to get back to iNotes, which makes it load faster, but get rid of everything else. Same with remote images for ultralight security. You can now hide those to provide better security on the mobile devices. They'll get the dreaded X to show there was an image there. And something that affects the Notes client as well as the iNotes users is prefixes are ignored. So the RE and forward are now ignored for sorting. Unfortunately, now you have to retrain your users, but they should be much happier and pleased with that. That's a big thing that people have wanted for years, is the ability to ignore those. First part, and I'm seeing, let me pop out my questions real quick because I'm getting a few that are coming in. I want to make sure I'm not missing on iNotes. What is TAM? Tivoli Access Manager. So I got a question on one of them, what is TAM? So sorry about that. I put TAM in there by default because I know I play with it too much. It's Tivoli Access Manager. Also, I have a bunch more questions on Citrix, which we have a slide on a couple Citrix things. We'll come back to those for those of you that are asking what that is. Okay. So SiteMinder and Tivoli Access Manager pretty much go together for you. All right, let's go back to the slide. Sorry, everybody. I'm going to flip back and forth as we can. The same time proxy is now supported, meaning you're able to specify to use the new 852 same time proxy for your chat client. It's a WebSphere-based interface that points to your community server. It provides a non-JVM. It's all HTML-based, all web-based. Better interface. It looks just like the integrated client. There's a few things here and there that are not the same, but a ton of abilities that are built into it and get rid of that whole JVM pop-up same time. You will have to deploy a piece of WebSphere to make this work. You will need one server at least. It supports up to a couple thousand concurrent users, and all it does is proxy requests back to your community server. That's what this is for. I would investigate putting it in place. I think it's a better enhancement. It gives a better seamless look and feel as compared to the client, and I wrote a blog post on it a while ago. I can see eventually down the road, Same Time Connect going farther and farther away and replacing it in the sidebar of the Notes client as the proxy. If it provides almost the same functionality at this point, including some SUT-like features, eventually we're not going to need the full Same Time Connect client embedded in the Notes client, which then reduces the size. But it's all web-based at that point, so keep that in mind. There's a bunch of configuration things that will be documented for you that you have to set, where the proxy host is, what ports to use, things like that. Chrome 12 is supported. Ed Brill came out with that one, but now you have Chrome 12 support. There's some new restrictions for personal group expansions and better auto-processing of meetings. Before, auto-processing of meetings through the iNotes wasn't the best thing in the world. Now you're going to have better controls of that. The ability for it to take a meeting in, process it for you, put it on your calendar, delegate other features that you want to do, because we all like to delegate our meetings. Skip one for you. All right, there we go. Now this is pretty cool. These are new. A specific machine policy setting. So picture all these years you've been dealing with a specific user and you're writing dynamic policies or group policies or whatever it is, it doesn't matter. And it's always affecting the user. But if they go home, the machine isn't the same. If they go to their work machine or their laptop, they aren't the same. Now you can target what machine they're on using the new Get Machine Info. So you're able to say, oh, if they're on this OS or this type of machine, using the Get Machine Info, or if they only have this much memory, launch the basic client. Use the standard client. Don't do this. How much hard drive space do they have before I give you a managed replica? Oh, all my call center employees in this IP range, I want them to have this specific policy setting when they're there using Get Machine Info. But when it's the senior officer and they go back to their desk or they go to their laptop, I want them to have this policy setting. This is a cool new feature. This has been needed for a long time. Too many of your users have multiple devices and machines. Now we're talking mobility and everything else. This will give you the answer that you need. Machine policy settings could be really powerful, but also keep in mind, that you can also limit what users can do. Well, Get machine info, I'm getting asked on the side, is set in the policy. There's actually some coding behind it, and it was really long. So instead of embedding a bunch, about 800 screenshots, I'll put the document link up for everybody so you can see exactly what you need. And then the other question was specific machine policies could enforce certain things like replicas except on specific Citrix terminals. If you do by like IP range, could you get machine type from that? Possibly. Yes, you should be able to restrict that as well. So you can say, do not deploy a managed replica or local replica on this range or this type of machine using this type of info call. That's absolutely correct. That's the whole idea of writing this policy. So instead of affecting the user no matter what they use, including Citrix, you're now affecting based upon the machine the user uses. So there, like I said, there's a whole bunch of documents around this. All right, moving on. And if you have more on that, let me know. Now, PIRC. This rocks. You guys didn't read about this yet or know about this yet. This totally rocks. How many times have you had replicas where deleted documents come back? Well, this purge interval replication control, it's new. You must be running 853 for the server that initiates this and does the replication, but it prevents old documents from replicating back. DDM will log the number of them, but it's a new property in the replication area of the database properties, and you can also enable it from compact on. But there's a long list of things to consider of what server does the call, have you synced your databases one final time before you actually allow this feature to be utilized and turned on. But the goal is of this new feature, I don't know if they're calling it perk, but PIRC, is that age-old problem where we've had a rogue database push back documents into your primary one because deletion stubs have been purged. So this will read the sequence number, it'll know the date number. This is a very cool feature. It's very new. I've only tested it and played with it once or twice. It's hard to test unless you have a lot of older data and you restore from an old database to test against. In the future, you'll probably see this really show up a little bit more. That's the big key to this, is as you start rolling this out more and more, starting at 853, it'll benefit you in the long run. Will you see it immediately? If your 853 server is the initiating call, you'll be able to use this feature according to the document. I did this from a server-to-server test by restoring an old database, and it seemed to work fine. Question came in, does ODS matter? No, the ODS didn't matter. Domino doesn't care from what I saw now. I was testing from an 853 to an 851 server, so I was in the 85 range, so the ODS was at least up to 51 or even 48. Nothing older than that I tested against. Now, that's just me. Now, I wouldn't be surprised to see a tech note or something come along, but that's as far back as I went and tested. Server console, two quick ones for you. It's now 10 meg by default. No one cares about that due to disk space sizing unless you change it. But also the debug thread ID is now enabled. You'll get better debugging things. Why is this important? A lot of people overlook what goes on behind the scenes. If you can start tracking different types of thread IDs, then you're able to use DDM more effectively. You're able to use your alerts more effectively. A lot of the inherent capabilities. If you didn't see the session on DDM and DCT for Domino Configuration Tuner, go back and watch that one. That one's online and replayable now. The whole purpose is you guys are able to utilize a lot of the back-end core dumping of stats and events and things that occur on the Domino server and have automatic alerts built in. Is it foolproof? Well, no. None of the alert systems are foolproof, but at least you're ahead of the game and you know what's going on. So these are new server console service abilities. It's very minor, just a couple small changes that I wanted to get included inside of here. Now, the ID Vault. A couple people were asking about eVaults and Citrix. This is all I know about it so far. You can now enable with Citrix Zen app. This was a test. I'm not sure the final result if it was in the one today or not. This was in all of our testing, so we're allowed to talk about it. But you're able to actually use ID Vault with the Citrix Zen app pushed. The testing worked fine. Here, we did a couple quick tests with some of the Citrix clients, but overall, I'm not going to promise you yet. What I'm going to do is update the document on this on the replay and look at the final docs that came out today to see if they actually pushed it out there as the product. But ID Vault can now also prevent password prompts from add-on products. So you have a new security policy setting, so you need a directory that's 853 to have the security policy update. And what you're going to find is you're able to push out the ability for add-on products to not prompt. So, do you wish to share this with add-on products that you can actually now override and check that box for them? This is a great enhancement, mainly if you're deploying lots of add-ons and side products and you've always hated that prompt that users get. and the users never know what the heck to do with it, or they click no and they lock themselves out of the add-ons, you can now force it via the security policy. Okay. Now, as I said, Marie Scott sent us a lovely message that she wasn't going to be able to get in, do some stuff going on there and some meetings they had at the university, but she sent the few points that she had about IMAP. It's now a 32-bit stack. Previously, it was a 16. So performance is going to be greatly improved for those that are using IMAP. That's a huge boost to move. Keep in mind, as you guys understand, the POP and IMAP tasks have never really been updated since version 4. They've had a few things here and there, a couple little side commands, but they've never really been core updated. If you're now just moving to a 32-bit stack, that gives you an idea of how old this stack was. So what they did is issued some new server commands along with it to give you better controls, allowing you to individually drop users or drop everybody without restarting the task. So if you get a runaway rogue client or mobile device, or someone's running Outlook or something that's just eating up resources, not only do you have more availability moving to the 32-bit stack, but you can see who the user is by using the threads debug. You can drop the individual user by getting the session number, or just drop everybody. They will reconnect. The whole point of it is the ability for them to reconnect without you restarting the task and killing everybody for some certain amount of time. If you guys remember back on the POP days, which is still there, the unable to access, gain exclusive access to mail drop. So it's a common problem in the POP stack, which hasn't changed, that said, oh, guess what? This database is locked. The only way to get it unlocked was to totally reboot it for everybody. So the IMAP had the same thing. If you had a session that was running rogue or eating resources, you had to kill the task. Now you can drop that user with it. Not everybody uses the IMAP piece, but it's a great feature. Glad it's finally there and included. Go over here. Let's talk about some client enhancements. This is the same as we saw in iNotes a second ago, but the ability to search by sender or subject is included, but it requires 853 server, 853 client, and 853 template, which will also ignore the forward and RE things for replies for sorting. So it only works in the standard client. You pretty much have to have full text indexing enabled for the database for this to work. So standard client, all 853 with full text index, will now let you have a search menu for sender and subject. Sure, you could go in and actually type it into your little search bar, but what this does is allows you to have a menu control option in the standard client to quickly search by sender or subject, much like the new BlackBerry OS 7 does. You can actually highlight a message, scroll down to search or search by, click over and say by sender or by subject, and it'll search everything instantly. So it's a UI enhancement that a lot of people are used to in other mail clients. It's natural that it should be here. Now, what they did add at the bottom, and someone asked on the side, will ignore for RE and forward be multilingual? You know, I've never thought about the fact that RE and FWD for forward might not translate to other languages. For the person that asked, that's a great one. What the heck does it show as for RE and FWD in other languages? I'm just curious. But the person put that in the chat window real quick, and that is a good question. I have no idea if it's multilingual. He says WLT. Really, I had no idea that was the acronym. I don't know if it's multilingual or not. It didn't say that in any documentation. I of course didn't test it in anything but U.S.-based, English-based clients. That's a great one to put on the side. And I would ask Mary Beth, but she's not there right now. So I'll find out. We'll get the answer for that one, but that's a great question. Is it multilingual? The pop-up is new. This is in user preferences. You go in and actually enable this, and I want you to think about this. Currently, you have the little, almost like notes miner thing in the bottom right corner. So this screenshot shows that now you have a pop-up. The pop-up will show for 2 seconds. It'll show the new message, and you can click to open the message, or you can open the inbox as you see in the screenshot. Or when it pops up for the 2 seconds, apparently if you click it and drag it, it'll stay on the screen until you close it, which you can see the close on the top right side. I'm torn. Is it going to be useful? Is it not going to be useful? Someone said it's just like Outlook 2003. Yeah, yay. What they're doing is starting to expose that whole Eclipse, notification area more and more, giving you these little windows on the side. I don't think it's a bad thing. I don't know how many of you really want that type of notification, how many of you really need it, and how many of you live on it. This may be a boom for some people to know instantly when they get an email message, but I don't know a lot of people that are constantly, just watching the inbox because there's so much going on. Now, I can see this as the precursor to more towards the activity stream theory inside the Notes client, meaning a constant flowing notification area of events and calendars and new documents and all sorts of fun things that are out there. So you'll get this little pop-up. If anyone remembers back in the day, they had Notes Buddy. This would do the same type of thing. It would pop up in the corner, and it would show you everything you needed. People from Outlook, of course, that are converts will love this, so people are saying it in there. And then a shame that the pop-up doesn't have a delete X on it like Outlook. That's a really good one, that there's no way to delete from right there, but I haven't tried right-clicking to see what the other menu options are, so we'll do that later, and maybe we'll screencast it real quick for everybody. The pop-up is the inbox only. For what I understand, it doesn't say anything about folders, so I was asked, does it jump across and read also new mail in the folders? The way it should read is any new mail that's delivered no matter where it is, but is it only reading the inbox? Great question. That's not even in the documentation. They don't specify if it's just the inbox itself, because I see the click is open the inbox, so I bet it's only reading inside the inbox itself. I would pretty much presume that's where it's going to read from, not just a folder with a rule. Now this is an interesting one, this top one. I was told that it wasn't the case in CD5, but we'll find out. Let you select. Someone wants to know if it'll let you select for the that little pop-up. This is an interesting one at the top. Display attributes and type ahead. This is the standard client only, but it allows you to specify, once you upgrade everything to 8.5.3, attributes about a type ahead name on your own. So like a department head or best buddy or R&D, or if it isn't in the directory, it allows you to specify extra attributes in there. I'm not quite sure how beneficial this will be. What if the person changes? How is it stored? Does it move between machines? Is it stored in the address book and replicates? There's a lot of missing things about this that I'm totally unsure of how far it's going to go. So keep that in mind. It's there, but you must have the new per names, client, and server all at 8.5.3 before you get to play with this or test it. The mail file copy contacts is new with the actions that they gave you, so you're used to things like being able to send an email message and do other actions, where the copy in the mail file is just a list of people pretty much for type ahead and Domino web access. Now they're giving you other actions to act more like the local address book. You must have the 8.5.3, you must have the 8.5.3 template on the mail file, I almost said your personal address book, to see these new features. And last part is read and unread colors. Yay. If you don't like the read and unread colors inside your mail file, you can now change them via preferences, fonts, and colors. If you really want to, go nuts with highlighting certain mail messages from certain people as indicator colors and then change read and unread, I can see this being beneficial for people that, color blindness issues or something else, maybe an area which they work. They need, different types of screen resolution and monitors, and I can see that being beneficial. But for the overall population, it sounds like someone's going to be calling you going, I can't see my mail because I colored it white. It's pretty much what it sounds like at this point. I have no new mail. Yes, you chose the font color white on white. Yes, you have no new mail. It's pretty much the way that one will go. But it's there. It's built in. It's an 8.5.3 thing. It's in preferences, fonts, and colors. Red on green. Yeah, red on green's dandy. Now, new signature features. This is kind of cool. You can now choose different signatures. You must have a default specified, but you can have text and HTML and JPEG and GIF and bitmap, but you can have multiple easily selectable signature files. So there's new features built around the signature block. This isn't replacing if you have a standard that you're pushing out via policy. This is a user-selected control. If you want to, force something onto them, you're going to need to do that on the server side and policy side or an appliance side. This is for the users to play with. The second one is really cool. So when proposing a new meeting time, it'll leave the original marked off and let you still propose the new one. So it doesn't move and shift the entire calendar, just in case you can leave that time blocked. I like that feature a lot. I think that's very beneficial. I didn't even think about it until I actually started playing with it, that, yeah, I want to move it till 11, but once I move it, what happens is most people then get booked over for some reason at 9 or 10, whatever it was. This will now let you leave that in place temporarily until it's accepted or finalized, and then remove the block on that other time. It's a great feature. A question went back to the signatures at the top. Can you block signatures that are too large? No, there's no setting control for blocking ones that are too large, and I know exactly what you mean. If you block anything, it's the size of a message, which would include the signature side, plus the attachments, plus the rich text, everything else. So no, there's no direct control over size of signature files, so yes, someone could get a little bit ridiculous with what they put in there. The updating meeting invitees is really straightforward. You can now tell people when others are added or removed. Before, they really weren't seeing that. It's just a great additional feature, and some people like to see it. I like the bottom one. iCal subscriptions, you can now forward them. Previously, you'd have to send a link to have them subscribe. Then they'd have to go get it themselves and put it into their calendar. Now you can just go ahead and forward the iCal subscription right to the other party. So this gives you the ability to create or pull ones from the web, or for those of you watching, sports or the playoffs, or if there's when game times are, whatever it is, when we produce our podcasts on the network here, and when the webcasts are going to be, which great idea. Maybe I should make it an iCal setting so it goes right to your calendars. You'll be able to forward this on to other people. So great feature. I'm glad they implemented it, and hopefully people get some usage out of it once they start exploring a little bit more. About another page of this, and then we'll get over to the development stuff. So another one I already mentioned, opening a web page widget in an external browser. I want you to think about, though, what browsers and what versions installed. So if you're going to force people outside of the client from the embedded experience, where are you sending them to? Are you pushing them out to a Firefox? What's their default? What version is it? Will it work? Or otherwise, you could just cause yourself more headaches. So keep that in mind. Duplicate calendar entries are merged. So if you get two entries that are overlaid on your calendar, you can now have a preference that says merge them together. I like that. Get them a lot where they sent out a new entry, or I got it twice from two different people for the same meeting, or things like that. You can now merge. And the last two are just web interface. You can create and delete repeating rooms and meetings and resources, or delete rooms and resource reservations from the web. They're going to start enabling more X-page layers on top of the resources.nsf database to give you more capabilities from logging in via the web. So, Kathy, did you hang up already?
No, I was just sleeping.
Okay.
Sorry.
Someone else asked real quick, has the time entry box been fixed to understand if you type 15, you mean 3 p.m.? Oh, I love you. No, but I love the fact that you use 24-hour clocks, and no, that hasn't been understood that I've seen yet, and I can test it in just a minute while Kathy kills us with development stuff. But I'm going to give you controls.
Okay.
So you have a couple slides, right?
Yes.
All right. All right, everybody, I'm going to switch it over for the development. Kathy is now the presenter. And as soon as she shares her screen, we'll see it on the magic screen. Wow. That's fancy. That's a big red line.
Okay.
It's all you.
It's all me. Okay. So I apologize. My slides aren't quite as nice. It's really just a big, long list because there's a big, long list of things that were added. Some things are small. Some things are big. I'll try to hit all of them. The very first one is possibly a small thing. That small is in air quotes. But it's a big deal to me. It's 2 new perspectives were added to designers. So the X Pages perspective you can switch to, which shows only elements necessary for X Pages development. And one that you quote-unquote classic developers will like is there's going to be a forms/views perspective. So it gets rid of all the X Pages stuff that you don't need to see when you're developing your regular Notes client applications. So it's a small thing, but I love that one. Dojo has been upgraded to 1.51. Updated JavaScript editor, so there's improved code validation, formatting preferences, which I always love to do, change the font, change things like that to make it easier to read, easier for me to work with, and code templates and some more stuff there. A new Java design element to create a single Java class scoped to the actual NSF, making that easier for you. Big one, the source control enablement. So Declan Lynch blogged about it, and I believe David Leedy is soon to have a Notes of 9 episode coming on that. So source control to work with SVN, but also I believe they said, type agnostic. So they're going to do things it'll support other than SVN. So those guys both cover that pretty well. palette profiles. So now you can create profiles for your palettes that appear in Designer. So you can change it around, you can include certain elements, exclude other elements, and you can have it set up in various different profiles. So when you're working in different types of applications, you can have certain things showing and not other things at other times. And of course, if you mess it all up, there's always a reset button, which is good and important. What else? So Navigator content preferences. You can change what now appears in the Navigator, what elements you'd like to see and which ones you don't want to see, which is also great. And next slide. The control properties box, or the properties box, I'm sorry, you can control it now. So a lot of times it would auto pop up when you were working on something, and a lot of times that could be really, really annoying. You were typing away, and you didn't realize that the properties box had come up and was interrupting things. You can now control that and turn it off or turn it on, which is nice. And expand all and collapse all has been added to the outline. So say you're really 20 levels deep in your X page outline, you can collapse all if you need to jump out to something else, or you can expand all if you need to see more in there. Big one covered on some of the blogs was the full text search sorting in X pages has been added, which is great. And then another small one, F2, to rename the element. It seems small, but it's a huge thing. When we used to be able to change the element name and the alias name, and then that was taken away, that's been given back now. So you can change the element name and the alias name at the same time. HTML5 attributes were added. Oops, sorry, I didn't mean to move that. Were added in the XPages controls. That's really nice for things like mobile development. I know some people were talking about that, especially with iOS 5 coming out, but also I know BlackBerry, their WebWorks applications use HTML5, so that's really great that that's been added. JavaScript and CSS aggregation. This is a new feature to dynamically aggregate multiple Dojo modules or CSS into a single file. So that's a big help. Mark Hughes mentioned a little gotcha on that, and he's going to have that on his blog available if you want to go check that out. And it's been upgraded to the One UI 2.1, which as far as I can tell is additional colors of blue, gold, green, onyx, orange, purple, red, silver, and of course pink. And that's it. There's a few other things, but that's the majority of stuff there for developers.
Wow. That's it?
That's it.
Man, I was hoping for so much more.
That's a lot. I wasn't sure, how long I would have, so I tried to zip through most of it.
All right, let me grab it real quick. Man, I was hoping for so much more, I tell you. Really hoping, everybody, that I'd have a few more minutes to breathe, but that's okay.
Nope.
Nope, we don't want that one. We want that one. All right, we've got multiple things on the screen, that's why. So everybody knows I've been out there poking around to make sure that I saw the announcements. One thing that came out that I don't have on any slide that I'll mention before I mention Traveler is you now have the right, and this kind of snuck out a little bit early apparently, but as part of your entitlement for Domino Client Access licenses and Domino Express licenses, you now have the right to use two parts of Connections 301, files and profiles. So same time entry, Symfony, Tivoli Directory Integrator, Mobile Connect, you now also get profiles and files as part of it. If you think about it, that's a huge thing. You're now getting a ton of software included on the side to start integrating everything together. But I think it's not just a matter of showing their step to give you guys more collaboration and more social. It's because this stuff's going to be required for coming up when you start talking about the overlays and the new feature packs and everything else. You're going to need these capabilities, and if they don't start entitling you now to start deploying them, then you're going to be deploying them as soon as these feature packs come out. I know that sounds a little bit crazy. It's probably a little forward-thinking, but without them doing this, you'd be kind of stuck later on when they tried to give you some of the new features and capabilities inside the Domino world. So let's talk about Traveler. One thing you should note, and I'll put a link out there for you, on the Inside Lotus blog, they today launched a ton of screenshots for Traveler 853. So we're going to talk about it, and then, like I said, there's a bunch of screenshots out there as well. It's really nice of them to do, to put them out there. They're really clean and clear, too, which is good. So Traveler, let's do the mega list. This is via Paul Mooney, who really wanted to be here. As of last night, he was still trying to work his schedule out, but the client demanded him on site today. Right now, it's the middle of the afternoon, and if I see him in the audience, we'll strangle him if I look at the attendee list. But Android, let's run through. This is probably the biggest hunk of improvements went to the Android devices, starting with the installation. But now they've added some chair-side calendar action. Then they moved up finally and gave you support for the tablet and OS 3. Anything with the asterisks is pretty much things Paul wanted to highlight for you. So now giving you OS 3 tablet support, as well as better menus for the tablet and just OS 3 support overall, really opens them up for a bunch more devices and things that are rolling out the door from some of the providers. For those of you that have a lot of executives or people in your groups that are bringing around these new tablets, not only just iPads, but you're starting to look at the playbooks, and now you've got jumping into the new Android tablets, and HP is trying to come out with their stuff that failed miserably in life, as we all know. Now you're going to start seeing this. The homepage widgets, for those familiar with Android, are very cool. So you're now able to actually see the homepage widgets inside of there. I'm a little torn on widgets a lot of times on my Android device, just so everybody knows. I actually run one. I run an Evo, an HTC Evo. Why am I torn? Simple fact is that they eat up some resources. And do I want that much screen real estate dedicated to it? Before it was just an icon and I could open. That's great. I like the clean interface, very few things on there, not a ton of, I go to an app if I need it. If I don't use an app after a brief amount of time, I take it off my home screen anyway. I have it installed. I just take it off the home screen. But if you live in Traveler and you're living on your device, it's a great thing, just so you know. Tap to dial is there for the calendar. Yeah, and someone made a point about the support. It's not a full tablet support, runs in phone app mode, but it's there. There's menus and support. They're at least giving you that much out the door. Tap to dial for your calendar. So when you're inside a calendar entry, you can tap and go right into the conference calls, what you need to do. Some minor mail enhancements, no big deal, but Domino encrypted mail support is one of them. And a multi-line signature. Before they had a single-line signature, now it's multi-line. So overall, they're really making some enhancements in the Android side. And if you look, like I said, at the actual screenshots they have out there, you'll see that you can also do multi-text support. I didn't talk about that, just to get you some more new features that are out there. But the ability to, there's check boxes. So when you're inside a message, you can do text selection, but you can also do check boxes now at the inbox to do actions for all of them, like move to folder or delete. You can add widgets for the home screens, like I said, in small and large sizes. They make an example of, I like the small one for my calendar and the large one for the email. Whatever you choose to do, no big deal. Type ahead addressing is there. Traveler, and I talk about this in another one, the next slide, but will not only search your local contacts, but also the server. And there's some, I'll save the slide for some of the other news. Symbian 3 that we're looking at, device encryption support and enforcement. That's pretty much everything that was under Symbian. For those that have it, I'm not sure how many of you actually have Symbians running around, but now you have the support capability. Someone made a comment inside, two things. I'll answer two questions here. Someone made a comment on the first part that 853 Traveler Android never force closed, which is a major improvement over the previous version. And now cleaning up and deleting a ton of mail now works without hanging up the phone. Yes, there was some issues. We had some internally with people that ran Android would get hangs or freezes sometimes. The new 853 test that we're doing on our test server, they actually haven't made a single complaint about it. So I think they've made some major strides there. As force close is not a feature. And then I get a question of going into detail regarding Domino encrypted mail support. Pretty much the way that BlackBerry works and everything else is that you're going to have to embed the Notes ID file inside the mail files, so then you can actually read encrypted mail. So it's pretty much the same way that works. Not a large step, but it now allows you to basically do the translation of the encryption and then present it to the user for Android. So you're not actually storing the ID file down there. There's no widgets at all listed for Symbian, which was a question that came in. I'm sorry to say they didn't say anything about any widgets for Symbian. It was all for Android on there. I apologize for them doing that to you. iOS, this is cool. One of them's been out since 8.52.3, which is the Lotus Traveler Data remote wipe for only data. But now you can select which apps are allowed to sync, and there's reply and forward mail indicators. So for iOS, it's been their strong leading point for quite some time. Android, they're trying to catch up very quickly. But what you're getting now is, Paul wanted to highlight the ability to select which ones can sync, but the ability to only wipe traveler data from the device, not wipe the whole device. So if you're iPhone users, or if you really didn't like your CIO, you could just wipe the device anyway. No big deal there, but try it either way. Next one up is some of the random things, and one of the things I want to talk about that's on the design blog. So mail routing configuration isn't needed on the traveler server. It follows normal Domino rules for mail routing, no big deal. The second one is pretty cool. I think finally meeting notices are sent from the mobile device user and not the server. So it's a good feature when you get the actual meeting notices sent from the actual mobile device user. Now this is one we were talking about, and I'll come back to question. Name lookup requests are now against the user's home server. So one of the things in the type ahead was that Traveler would search your local contacts, but now it'll go to the server, and it includes, if you look at the bottom two, group and mail and database lookups. Yay, applause for everybody here. So now you'll start seeing both of those when you're doing your type ahead searches, not only their local contacts, but also everything on their home directory from their home mail server, as well as groups and mail and database. So it really opens up an ability for them to do a few more things inside of that. There's a new security policy to force the approval of new devices. This is huge. So people couldn't just fire up if they had an authenticated account. You could have people firing up multiple phones, multiple devices. Your support team would go absolutely nuts. Being able to put a policy in place that says you have to get approved before you enable this device is awesome. And that's totally huge and awesome. In the compose form for mail, they added some common actions onto the screen, like this, discard, send, save as draft. This is showing up on their Android stuff. They took away less used fields like CC and BCC into the menu itself. So now you get the ability to do some direct features and functions for the mail message like you would normally do, like save as a draft or send. That wasn't there before. You can actually add invitees to a calendar entering right from the device. There's a few other things you can do with the meeting services, reschedule, cancel, modify a meeting. But we talked about tap to dial already. You can actually put pauses and waits for those that really need that. And then there's a view that they made on the device where you can actually process all the meeting invitations that came in that day by checking them with the check boxes I talked about and just saying accept or decline or tentative or accept all or whatever you want to do. They make it really easy for you to go in and manipulate multiple ones. I think that's going to be the major stuff for Trev. Let me go back to the questions real quick. I saw a couple. No homepage widgets. We already talked about that. So that one I'll send out there. But there's not any for Simeon that I saw. What about sync notes with iPhone? If you're talking about other applications and things, I'm not really sure what you're talking about that. And then someone asked about the Amazon tablet. Oh, that's what someone put Amazon in there. Yeah, it uses some type of Android, but due to the fact that it came out last week, they've not officially supported it, and I have not had the ability to install on one. No one sent me one as a gift or review unit, unfortunately, so I've not had the chance to try to install on it. Amazon's going to be pushing you through their marketplace for most everything that they do. So if IBM pushes the app to not just the Android marketplace, but to the Amazon marketplace, I could see there being some sort of capability with that. I don't see why it wouldn't work, but keep in mind, Amazon really, really stripped down the ability that's in there. Another one was journal or notebook support. No, nothing in there. I'm sorry, when someone said about notes sync, yeah, there's no journal sync yet. And then can you reschedule repeating meeting? You know, I didn't try that, and that's not in any of the documentation of one of the features that they added. So someone asked about rescheduling that one right there. Yeah, for the versioning, 853, yeah, I wouldn't even try to put 853 on an 852 server. Actually, the system requirements are also published now for all the versions. So you guys can go out and see all the new system requirements across. But if you're going to run an 853 code stream of Traveler, I'd put it on an 853 server. I wouldn't even waste my time thinking about putting it on an older version. This isn't same time or anything else. You want the integration. You want the capabilities. You know, upgrade the server in place as well. And there's no custom repeat dates in the iNotes calendar that I saw for Katie that asked that question right there. No, trash bin wasn't one of the meeting items, one of the menu items that was on there. I know what you want to do is you want to send to the trash bin from the phone itself. It wasn't one of the menu items in our test. I can ask if anyone found it in a hidden menu somewhere, but I didn't see any support for a trash bin. So now then, the big one. Oh yeah, restore from trash before the 48 hours. Yeah, someone said to restore from trash before the 48 hours. Right, that's what I said. There's nothing in the phone to get your trash back. You better go to your client and grab it before it gets expired. So we're down to our last 15 or 20 minutes. Talk about the XWork server. We're right on time. I don't know how detailed you guys want to get. There's the new logo. You all can see it. Yes, it's blue. So they took it, the same Domino yellow server that you're used to, and moved it over to blue and whitewashed it for you. No big deal, right? Let's talk about the details about this thing. I'm going to tell you everything I know. I can answer a bunch of questions. I'll start watching the side, and then let me read one thing. Oh yeah, Kendra asked, and Kendra, you hear all the time, of course we record our webcast. We always record our webcast. So you'll have this later on. And it looks like a squished bullet. I appreciate that from somebody. So here we go. The XWork server. There's an IBM answer, and there's my answer. The IBM answer is that it's a new product offering designed to help ISVs and IBM business partners deliver social business applications, providing a powerful and comprehensive application development platform. Yeah. Okay, so it's basically a Domino server that is made under the IBM name to run X-Page-based applications. We'll talk about what applications are in a minute. It's based on Domino technology and X-Pages. There's no WebSphere involved or anything else. And then someone's going to bring up the TLS question. Don't bring up the TLS question. What do you need? You guys know what you need to do, work with this server, right? You need to know Designer, you need to know X-Pages, JavaScript, CSS, all that other fun stuff. So how is it licensed? Flat rate, fixed rate, per year. You must renew each year. It is not you buy it once and get to keep that version forever. So you will pay $2,000 a year up front for a specific amount of application. Now, an application is not what we think is an application, even though they told us there was an application before. So here's what I mean. In your Notes client, they changed all the UI interfaces. They did this to you again, just like they did with Lotus Notes, iNotes, and hosted iNotes, and all the other stuff. They rename it the same. They moved you from the idea of databases to application. Well, to us, it's still an application. But inside of XWork, an application is a collection of databases. Let that simmer for a minute. So what they allow you to do is license for $2,000. There's no Z series or I series yet. Linux, AIX, Windows. License for $2,000 for applications, which can contain 4 databases down below. There is no lockdown. It's pretty much the honor system from what I understand, but there is no Notes client access. Let's repeat that. No Notes client access. So your developers, yes, can develop, but the Notes clients are not licensed. You will need a CAL for those to work. There is no PVU licensing. For those that understand licensing, PVU, the processor value unit crap, none of that. It's $2,000 flat. You run 4 applications that contain 4 databases to make 1 application. So in essence, any system database is not included, but anything you make from a template that's part of a collection is considered part of those 4. Meaning if I create a blog database because I have a CRM app and something else and I want a blog, that is part of it. Hopefully that part is really clear. You can do mail-in databases, and it can send mail, but you cannot do email hosting on it, clients. So you're not going to have mail databases in terms of users just doing mail all day. But you can have a mail-in database, and you can have an app that generates a trigger that does a mail from what's on there. You can. Now this is where it gets fuzzy, and you guys need to pay attention. I know some of you aren't being attentive right now because I can see the grid that says how many are being attentive. So you need to pay attention. You can double your license on the server, meaning I can move it up to 8 applications. All right? That means I can now have double the amount. That doesn't mean it's now 8 times 8. It's still 8 times 4. So I can have 32 databases under 8 applications. Some people were saying I can have double everything, which is now 8 applications and 8 databases for each application. That's 64. No. It's 8 applications instead of 4 applications. Now here's the cool part, and if you're paying attention. If you don't want to use a local database that takes part of an application, you are licensed and allowed to call remote data. Meaning I can call data from another Domino server, from SQL, I can use LEI, I can use DEX. You can call remote data as part of this. So now you have to have a license for anything else you run, SQL or LEI or whatever. But the point is on the XWork server, XWork says you're allowed to call remote data as part of your licensing. So no Notes clients are allowed to connect. Designer only, no Notes clients. PVU doesn't apply for licensing. And I got some more stuff, don't worry. PVU doesn't apply for licensing. It's a flat rate, $2,000 a year, unless you wish to have a second license on top of it to double it. After that, you must then deploy additional servers. So what constitutes an application? Let's say you have a product launch. This is the example IBM gives, and it really makes it easy. Let's say you have a product launch, or you're an ISV, like El Gucci making idea jams or whatever, and you're launching an application. If you have a database for admin config, one for workflow logic on the back end, one for the launch task, and one for marketing. That's 4 databases. That makes an application. That's one. Okay? What if you want more than that? Well, now reading the license sheet they had, they told me this wasn't the correct way, but I'm reading it again. What if I have more than 4 databases or want more than 4 applications? You can get an additional entitlement, so now an application can contain 8 databases and 8 applications. So according to this, it's saying 64 again, but I read one that said it was only 32. Let me get an answer, clarification on that one. XWork comes with a lot of databases. Which ones count? Team room, discussion, document library, blog are part of social databases. They would count. All their system databases do not count, meaning the log file, the directory, things that are system databases do not count as part of your application. If you put it inside of it as a secondary directory or something else, they're saying it counts. The primary person, well, Brent brings up a good point. And, Brent, we're going to debate this. We're going to throw it out there in just a minute. Brent says, and he makes a good point, the primary purpose of the license is to allow software vendors and ISVs to sell their X-Page application without forcing the customer to get a Domino server license. So it's a bundling. It's an ASL. It's a subscription-type license for ISVs that say you can bundle a Domino server, XWork server, license for $2,000 a year with your application and sell your application. But this also allows companies that have 8 or 10 databases that they need to run, that they want to couple together, as one person brings up, into a more or less unrelated database into one app, but to run these for a cheaper license cost as they need to run them. Meaning if I've had, for the past 10 years, had Outlook, but we were running Notes apps and we run out of 10 apps, well, I could double up on my license costs for $4,000 a year, have unlimited users if they're web only and no Notes client. It's not really a cheaper server someone brought up that doesn't have Lotus or Domino attached. It's really made for ISVs or for people that want to serve just X-Page-based applications. The goal of IBM is in this, from the business partner standpoint, from an ISV standpoint, and from my standpoint, is IBM wants to be able to walk in and say, hey, we have this cool app. It does this. Wow, you could use this, like IdeaJam. I'm using it as an example because I know it well. It's X-Pages based. It's all web. You'll never know. And I'll cover the other question in just a minute, Lars. So I want you to buy this application. People never have to know that underneath the covers is X-Pages and Domino. They just know it's an IBM XWork server. Code gets installed. To you and me, it looks like Domino on the back end. They never know. There's no Notes clients that have to install or anything. The XWork server is okay for extranet use or inside the corporate firewall. There is no user cal. So you can put this where the heck you want to put it. Doesn't really matter. XWork's the same code base with Domino Utility Server. Has different licensing. So partners we're finding and ISVs we're finding, Domino Utility license is a little different. Are there any other license restrictions when comparing it to other things like Domino Utility Server? Besides restricting the number of applications that can be run per entitlement, there's a few other things. You can't partition it. Okay? XWork server is non-partitionable. So Domino Utility and Domino Utility Express do support it. Replication can be used with the application replicas that reside on other XWork server, except for the Domino directory, meaning you cannot replicate in other databases in. I'm getting to clustering. You don't get ahead of me, everybody. Bring other databases into it. You'll be able to cluster with other XWorks servers, but not with non-XWorks servers. XWorks has an unlimited number of authenticated and anonymous users. Utility Express is only for companies up to 1,000 users. The replication is a key thing that I'm going to go back to. This is a key piece. You can replicate your directory with non-XWorks servers, but if you wish to replicate other databases, they have to be other XWorks servers, which falls into yes for the clustering side, but it has to be XWorks. From everything I've read, it has to be XWorks for sure. And can I access data that resides in NSF on a Domino server? XPages allows you to bind your control to data that resides in a separate NSF, and that NSF can be on a separate server. If that NSF resides on a non-XWorks server and you're binding your data to it, you can access that NSF, and it doesn't count as part of your application. So you can also serve a database from disparate resources, like I said, like SQL and everything else. Can I run non-XPage Domino Web and Notes apps on the XWorks? While the messaging focuses on it, you can run non-XPage Domino Web apps, but they do count as part of your license, but you can actually do it. I'm going to go back and read this real long question in a second. You may cluster XWorks for failover or load balancing, but you must buy a server license for each one in the cluster. Okay, so there's your answer directly. It supports Windows, Linux, and AIX. We're not going to worry about any certifications. And there was one more. Do I need a client access license? No, you don't need a CAL. Now let me answer this one question that came in because it was a long one, apparently. All right, you can license a second installation of the IBM XWorks server on the same physical deployment. Maximum 2 licenses per installation. Does this limit my visualization options? Oh, you're talking about a virtualization option. Okay, that's where you threw me off there. Meaning every Domino server instance, non-partitioned, sorry, Domino, sorry guys, I say Domino, every XWorks server instance, it's non-partitionable. You get one license entitlement for $2,000. You can double that for $4,000. That's it. Then, as a separate VM, that's a separate XWorks server, which you would have to license separately. So it's on the same physical hardware that has nothing to do with it. It doesn't say anything about physical servers. It has to do with instances, non-partitionable instances that are clusterable, and you can replicate directory source, and you can point to each other for data. That's it. It's pretty straightforward with that. So you can virtualize, hopefully. Clustering is fully supported, but it is a license for every XWorks server. You cannot cluster to a non-XWorks. Replication is only the directory, not any other database. And you can run these servers anywhere you want with no worry about licensing, internal or external. The XWorks server can only cluster for the same other XWorks license. You can't do it to a non-XWorks box. 2 is the limit per box. If you need something additional, they say you have to talk to IBM. That's beyond anything that we were ever told about it and any of the preview stuff I got my hands on. They had a bunch of meetings with us to be able to talk about stuff. 6 XWorks servers on the same physical box? Yes. 6 XWorks in virtualization. 6 XWorks servers running in the same XWorks server instance? No. 2 is their maximum that they say. So you couldn't run, you get 4 apps with 4 databases. I couldn't have 24 apps with 24 databases each. That's not the way they've done the license. But someone said, utility server might be the best guess. Well, keep in mind, the utility server has a number of user licensing requirements. Utility Express is no more than 1,000 users. XWorks server, unlimited. Scale of hardware. Keep that in mind. It's total scale of hardware. So, where are we here on time? Let me look. Yep, we've got a couple minutes left, as usual, so we're on time.
Sorry,
any other
Chris?
questions? Kathy, are you there?
Yes, Chris?
Yes.
There was a question some time ago about the extension library, and I didn't see it until, yes, well, you had started, so I didn't want to interrupt. So yeah, there was a question whether the extension library was included with 853, and it is not. And I think for at least one reason, and possibly more reasons, that actually makes sense, because the extension library is sort of a living, breathing thing that is updated much more often than any notes release. So you'd want to go and get the latest and greatest code all the time anyway. So that was the answer to that. No, it is not included. And then one other thing I wanted to mention that wasn't in the list of points was that Symfony 3 is what comes with 853, which is important for some developers if they're putting coding to have data going out to Symfony. So just an FYI.
Okay, I have a few more at the bottom. Will there be hotfixes for 853 as development stopped? I was told there would be hotfixes for 853. What you're looking at past this is going to be not fix packs, but feature packs. And you have an answer to your extension library at the bottom. But feature packs or fix packs. Did that answer your extension library there, Kathy, at the bottom of the question? Just came in.
Let me see.
Okay. Okay. Go ahead.
Are you saying it? Did you say it out loud? I'm sorry. I was
no,
trying
I
to read
didn't say it
all
out
the things. Oh, okay. So yes, Paul tells us that the extension library is planned for inclusion in an 853 extension pack planned for later this year.
Okay.
So there you go.
Oh, I answered Thomas. I answered the wrong question by saying will there be hot fixes for 853. I meant to say it for this one. The one you just read, I was going to send it to everybody. 853 client supported on Mac Lion. The system requirements are out. We're going to link to it in the replay notes. I can pull them up in just a second, but I want to answer a question above. I know it works, as we've seen people do it, but is it supported? Let me go look. What about replication of admin4, DDM, and etc.? They said the directory, and it's really funny that you bring that up because I would presume that you would want to pull DDM. Now, keep in mind, DDM data as replication is totally different than any other replication. It's a self-push. You can't control it. It's every 5 minutes, etc. But other databases, I would hope that you could replicate certain other, like admin4, to control them. I didn't see it out there. Someone said, well, I pull up the system requirements. Someone said forward-looking, and I'll put the notes in about the system requirements. Someone said forward-looking. Is there, by any chance, Notes 9? There is no Notes 9, unfortunately, is what they're saying. And it's going to be, it's going to be feature packs. Ed specifically said there is no Notes 9, just so you all know. It's what he said. And for the one that asked about Lion, if you go to the, this is the link for all the support for the Notes clients. I also have links for the new system requirements for the Domino server, Traveler, and everything else. We'll put those all in the show notes when we get this converted and probably uploaded, probably tomorrow, actually. One more question. The XWorks server support load balancing. As part of an XWorks server cluster license, you can load balance and fail over, but you must buy an XWorks license for each instance. So meaning for each node that you put up that you want to scale across, yes, because it uses the Domino core underneath, so it's going to scale up to, 6. But you must provide a license for each instance across there. Installation of Traveler will be available as an Android or iTunes app. iTunes has it out there for you that you can go and download. You'll find Traveler out there. But for Android, you can just point right to the server, to the servlet, and pull it up there. Scrolling down. Get machine info. Yeah, that new feature. Require 853 client. It is 853 server for sure. The policy has to be there so you can actually have the capabilities. Let me look. I've got it actually on my machine. I'll take a look real quick and see. And then someone said, no Notes 9. What does that mean? I want you guys to go back and watch the OSLUG replay. It's up. It's posted. It's available. Where did I put the replay for that, Kathy? You remember where the heck I put the replay for that? But Ed stands up during it and talks specifically about that he's not doing a Notes 9. They're going to do feature packs. So what you're going to get is enhancement overlays across the product that there's not going to be numbers, I don't think, is what they're trying to stay away from on some of these, is the actual numbering. He said he's not, whatever the next thing's going to be called, it's not going to be called Notes 9, but you are going to see not fix packs, but feature packs, which are additional enhanced capabilities for your client. Hopefully that answers it for you. Notes Vista, someone said. Yay. No, we're going to have Notes Vista. We're going to have additional layers. If you go watch some of the YouTube videos I talked about where they said, oh, yeah, it's a Notes client experience doing all this new Vulkan activity stream, it's an embedded browser framework, and that's what you're getting. The same thing inside of there is an embedded browser framework. There's a ton more things that came out today, so everybody knows about 853, about the entitlements. The great screenshots are out there. I'll link those as well for the Traveler people. And then I've got all the links for all the system requirements across the board for Notes, Domino, the administrator, Traveler, iNotes, Everything's out there. It's a great link to have in one place. And if you guys need any more of that. Otherwise, look for the recording of this, probably be up tomorrow. We'll send out probably either follow-up email, but you can check the blogs, check Consult in Your Pocket site as well. And we're going to give you, 3 minutes early. We're going to give you guys back about 3 minutes of time. And if you need anything else, please feel free to email. All the contact information is always there for all of you guys. I do notes, or you can send the email back to the events at Consult in Your Pocket. Any way you want to do it, you'll get in touch with us. And, I'm going to look at the operating system because he asked me. Someone nice got me my mind going. If I can find it real quick. I found the servers. I don't see the Mac. There's Linux. I don't see it for Lion on here yet, but then, of course, this is not in the best order as it was before. This is actually way out of order. This is actually the server. This isn't the client. Now, I think he's got his links messed up. So, there it is, Mac OS. I did find it. 10.6.2 Snow, 10.7 Lion, and Leopard 10.5.5. So Lion is listed in here as supported. All right, guys. Look for the recording later on. Otherwise, we're done, and Lotusphere. Who asked about Lotusphere 12 registration info? Lotusphere is out there. You can go register today if you want. It is now, the price I saw was $1,990-something. So basically $2,000 was the cheapest one that was out there right now, but no hotel info just yet, just the registration for Lotusphere itself. And if you don't know the word yet, huh?
Sorry, a couple of people tweeted the hotel link if somebody's looking for that. I think Curious Mitch and Andy Donaldson both tweeted the hotel link.
They found the hotel link?
Yep.
Well, the word this year is social. If you don't know that word and you see the site, you will understand what I mean. It's social. And lastly, people are saying on Passport Advantage, the download 853 is out. It is on Passport Advantage and the partner site. The download director is having problems, but HTTP is there. I'll give you guys a hint. The first 12 hours on a new release, unless you need it right now, you might as well just wait a few hours because it'll pick back up in a few. And no one has a promo code. So with that, we're going to go ahead and end the show. Talk to everybody later on. That's another Consult in Your Pocket webcast, and we're on time for one.